teachers, we're very acutely aware of the danger of attention span being the last man standing between a hungry audience and lunch, particularly when things are running overtime. So thanks for bearing with us here today. We got a big question we need to consider as teachers. We think the question is this: how can we as educators heal the people-planet divide that has become an essential mark of our era of history?
Consider this. The World Health Organization has made the rather dire prediction that by 2030, the leading disease burden worldwide will be depression.
In fact, depression is already the top cause of illness and disability for kids aged 10 to 19 worldwide.
This is just one symptom indicating that individual people the world over are struggling more than ever to find a sense of meaning and purpose in their lives.
And in the meantime, we're fed a daily diet of headlines like this. These are just from the past couple months, and they show a litany of global challenges that have become an all too familiar refrain.
The frequent reminders of poverty, climate change, war, and inequality create an aura of apathy about our collective global future. For us as high school teachers, these two trends paint a disturbing image for us as we walk into the classroom to work with teenagers each day.
This is the image we see. People are hurting individually while the planet is suffering globally. It's a dual crisis, and it seems to be unfolding ever more rapidly on both fronts.
If we are to reverse this trend, we believe that inspired education is absolutely essential. Unfortunately, by and large, this isn't really happening.
As we've heard from many speakers already today, our educational institution is trapped, like this kid's head. And it's an industrial model that's not seeking to inspire students to become whole or change the world, but rather to become really highly functioning cogs in the fast-paced machine of the modern world. We still treat kids like they're widgets going down an assembly line, and it dehumanizes them, and we as teachers then simply become quality assurance agents, trimming and fitting and stamping them with the labels, B-, C+, A, to send them to the next station on the line. With this kind of system, is it any wonder that so many of us are becoming sick while the planet is groaning under our weight?
This model isn't working. And you have to empathize with those that are brave enough to stand up off the conveyor belt or beg for something that really matters.
Like this guy, he's my favorite student, Calvin. We think Calvin has a valid question there. What is the point? And we think it's time for educators around the world to listen up.
In the face of such a challenge to people and the planet, Einstein urges us to dig deeper. A new type of thinking is essential if mankind is to survive and move to higher levels. In the mid-1990s, as a young teacher, I was looking for a new way of thinking. But honestly, it didn't really seem to be happening in my classroom. That was when I began to notice the transformative impact that service trips were having on my students. After a week at an orphanage in China, one of my students, Bethany, wrote in her journal, "Service scars you in the most beautiful way possible." This profound insight became the heart of a new course called Humanities in Action.
Today we're excited to share Humanities in Action with you. We want to share about the content we teach, the experiences we provide, and most importantly, we want to hear the voices of our students and what they have to say about this social conscience curriculum. So let's start by listening to what a couple of our students had to say about themselves and what they were like before they entered into our course.
I was obnoxious.
Didn't care a lot about the world.
I was really selfish.
Very arrogant.
Before, I don't want to say I was like shallow, but
selfish, I guess.
I've never really thought of like myself being connected to other people.
Did not really care about others.
And I didn't care about anything besides something that would only benefit me.
When we have asked students why they don't have a social conscience, they describe themselves as self-focused and disconnected from life's realities. The most common metaphor they use to talk about themselves is that they live in a bubble.
This bubble is what separates people and the planet. It's the result of our old method of education, and that old method is simply not going to work for another century. In our new way of thinking, then, the first step of social conscience education is to pop the bubble.
Over the years, students have consistently highlighted 3 areas of study that have served as an effective needle to pop that bubble. All are contemporary events.
The first, and the sharpest, is looking at the horrors of genocide. We have found there's a beautiful paradox in exploring humanity's darkest moments, in that it doesn't actually lead us deeper into our despair, but instead a spirit of hope and a spirit of endurance.
The second major idea that drives our curriculum is the study of globalization. Many of our students divide the world's people into 2 separate groups: those with normal lives themselves, and everyone else, all the unfortunate people.
Studying globalization helps students realize that all of our lives are interconnected in so many ways, that all people bring valuable perspectives that need to be heard, and we all have something that we can learn from each other.
Finally, students want to study the environmental crisis and to reconsider our relationship with planet Earth. They seem to understand intuitively that Earth is our one and only home.
But as we study each of these issues, we press deeper, and we look at the question of why through the lens of our human nature.
Why do we think and behave as we do, both individually and as groups?
How could the perpetrators of a genocide cut down their own neighbors?
How could a survivor find the strength to live on and the will to forgive?
What is it about ourselves that prevents us from giving up our habits of consumption and disposal?
And what would it take to make a heroic change in our own lifestyle?
As we interact with each other every day, our own personal lives provide a fertile case study for our exploration. Indeed, from the first day of class, we make that exploration explicit by asking the biggest questions about ourselves that we can imagine. Examining our worldview through these big questions becomes the backbone of the course.
As the journey goes on, students wrestle with these big questions, and in time, a new worldview, a new philosophy of life begins to emerge.
With each contemporary issue, our study plays back and forth across levels of depth, and students get to those most fundamental questions of human existence. Who am I? Why am I here? And yes, Calvin, what is the ultimate point of it all?
But all this isn't just a head trip.
It's not a head trip, it's a heart trip as well.
And to do that, we just have to get out of the classroom.
The service experiences that first inspired the beginning of the course have now become a laboratory for the self. Service experiences are the place where we test our hypotheses about our human nature, the place where we form conclusions that direct the next step of the journey.
Social conscience is field tested, and when the report comes back, like a lot of the alumni that are here today, we find that there's more that needs to be explored and more that needs to be done.
This is the heart of our course. This is the place where people and planet intersect, not just intellectually, but experientially as well. Here's what the students have to say about their service experiences.
But I think what was so key was that after we learned about it, we actually did something about it.
Because you learn everything in the classroom, but then you get to see it in real life.
You know, these are real people in the real universe.
Like, you get to do great things such as service.
You take action.
You're not looking at people from a computer screen. You're not reading about them through the computer screen.
We sit in a classroom and we can study the material, but unless we actually feel what it's like to be out there, and you don't get that same connection.
Social conscience education raises students' awareness about issues that matter most to them, and then engages their hearts through in-class study and out-of-class experiences. When that happens, students want to do something about it. They come to believe this world is not static, but within our power to change. It's an experience that can be truly transformative for high school students.
Slowly, as I got into this course, I realized that there's so much more out there.
The point of this whole course is to like change your worldview.
My worldview sort of expanded to things that I really knew and cared about and things that I want to pursue.
My point of view changed.
My experience in freshman year was revolutionary. You know, took control of my mind,
This course helps you develop as a person.
awakening my individuality.
I feel more hopeful about what we can do.
I finally realized that, whoa, this world isn't just about me, it's about everyone.
Thanks. In a world that is filled with hurting people and a hurting planet, social conscience education knits together the head, the heart, and the hands. It's a way to connect students to a world desperately in need of wholeness.
We've always learned the most from our students. They've led this journey the entire way. So it seems very appropriate for us to send you off with one final student voice. Throughout her high school career, Tiffany took our courses and went on many service trips. And so here's just an excerpt from her final essay as a senior that she wrote about the journey of social conscience. It was a slow stirring of my soul, an insistent urging to go further out, to see more, to do more, feel more, give more, empathize more with the rest of the world. My journey began at the draw of a window curtain, at the flick of a light switch, at the light of a matchstick. It was ultimately the ignition of a fire that I hope will never cease to burn.
People can change. The planet can change, and we can change our educational system from within as well. It has been put in our hearts, it has been put in our hands to make it happen. Thank you.
Thank you.